Beyond your beginning, rewriting the story of your life. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, this isn't how the story was supposed to go? That moment when you realize the narrative you've been living doesn't match the one you imagined for yourself? I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Devonne Dotson, a woman whose journey has fundamentally altered my understanding of human potential. Devonne isn't just another success story, she's a revolutionary force, challenging our most basic assumptions about destiny. Rising from the ashes of a childhood marked by an absent father and a mother battling addiction, she transformed herself into an accomplished television producer with multiple advanced degrees. But what makes Devon truly remarkable isn't just what she overcame, it's how she refuses with elegant defiance to be defined by those circumstances. When I sat with Devon, something she said struck me with the force of revelation. That does not define me. Five simple words that created a universe of possibility between her circumstances and her identity, between what happened to her and who she could become. Her story illuminates a truth we desperately need in our deterministic culture. Your beginning is just that, a beginning, not a prophecy, not a sentence, just the opening chapter of a book you're still writing. The labels we inherit early in life have a peculiar adhesive quality, don't they? They stick to us like those maddeningly persistent price tags on new purchases, the ones that leave behind that annoying residue no matter how carefully you peel them. Broken home, disadvantaged, at risk. These aren't just descriptions, they become predictions, expectations, limitations. They're stories written for us that we never asked to star in. Think about it. How many of us are still living according to scripts we never wrote? Stories that insist because you came from poverty, financial struggle is your birthright. Because your parents divorced, your relationships are cosmically doomed. Because you failed that exam, that business, that marriage, failure is somehow your natural state. These narratives aren't just false, they're dangerous. They're intellectual and emotional prisons constructed of nothing but air and belief. Yet their walls feel as solid as concrete. But what if we could break through? Consider Oprah Winfrey, a name so familiar we sometimes forget the staggering improbability of her journey. Born to a teenage single mother in rural Mississippi, her childhood was a masterclass in hardship, poverty, sexual abuse, shuttled between family members like an unwanted package. By conventional wisdom, by the statistics and probabilities and reasonable expectations, her story should have ended there. Another tragic statistic. Instead, she focused with laser like intensity on education, winning a scholarship to Tennessee State University. She channeled her natural gift for connection into broadcasting. And then, well, we know what happened then, don't we? A media empire worth billions, a platform that elevated countless marginalized voices, philanthropic initiatives that transformed thousands of lives, the first Black female billionaire in world history. What changed the trajectory of Oprah's life wasn't her circumstances, it was her magnificent refusal to be defined by them. Or take Tyler Perry, a man whose early chapters read like a cautionary tale. Physical and sexual abuse as a child, high school dropout, periods of homelessness while trying to stage his first plays, 6 years of repeated failures before his first successful production. Today, Perry owns a 330-acre studio complex in Atlanta, the first major film studio owned by an African American. He's created over 20 films, multiple TV series, and amassed a fortune estimated at over $1 billion. When I consider his journey, I'm struck by how easily it could have ended before it began. What kept him going through those 6 years of failure? An unwavering faith that sustained him through repeated rejections. a bone deep belief that his story wasn't over just because its beginning was painful. Then there's Dr. Maya Angelou, whose early trauma would silence most voices permanently. After being sexually abused at age 7 and seeing her abuser killed after she identified him, Angelou became mute for nearly 5 years. A child's desperate attempt to contain the power of words that seem to kill. She later experienced teen pregnancy at 16, much like Devonne. Yet this same woman transformed into one of America's most celebrated authors and poets. She authored 36 books, became a respected civil rights activist alongside Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., and received over 50 honorary degrees. During her years of silence, Angelou developed an extraordinary memory and love of literature. Her journey included work as a cable car conductor, cook, dancer, actress, and journalist before finding her voice as an author. What these stories share with Devon's is not just triumph over adversity, it's the fundamental recognition that our past circumstances don't have to dictate our future possibilities. This isn't about denying reality or minimizing trauma. The pain is real, the obstacles are real, the disadvantages are real, but equally real is our capacity to transcend them. In my conversation with Devon, three powerful insights emerge that can help all of us rewrite the stories of our lives. First, your circumstances don't define your destiny. Devon's journey from a challenging childhood to becoming an accomplished professional demonstrates that our beginnings don't determine our endings. The script you were handed at birth is just a first draft. You have the pen now, and the beautiful thing about being the author of your own life is that you can introduce plot twists at any moment. Second, faith can be a transformative foundation. For divine spiritual strength provided direction and purpose even through the most difficult circumstances. Whether through formal religion or a broader belief in something greater than ourselves, faith gives us a framework for meaning that transcends our immediate circumstances. It's the difference between seeing your struggles as meaningless suffering or as part of a larger story of growth and purpose. Third, education and personal development create new pathways. Devon's academic achievements, a bachelor's degree and two master's degrees, alongside her professional success, illustrate how investing in yourself opens doors beyond your past limitations. Learning isn't just about acquiring knowledge, it's about expanding your sense of what's possible. Each new skill, each new perspective, each new credential is not just an achievement. It's a key that unlocks doors you might not have known existed. But knowing these principles intellectually isn't enough. We have to embody them. We have to practice them daily. We have to live as if they're true until they become true. So here's what I want you to do. Take time to write down the limiting narratives from your past that you've allowed to define you. The stories you tell yourself about why you can't achieve something, why you don't deserve something, why you're stuck. Then deliberately cross them out. Replace them with affirmations about who you're becoming through faith and determination. Make Devon's refrain: that does not define me, your mantra when confronting obstacles or painful memories. This isn't magical thinking. It's not about denying reality. It's about recognizing that reality is more complex and more full of possibility than we often allow ourselves to believe. When I asked Devon about her love of travel, basketball, and games, I realized these weren't just hobbies, they were expressions of the full, joyful life that awaits beyond the shadows of the past. They were evidence that healing isn't just about surviving trauma, it's about reclaiming your right to joy, play, and discovery. The most powerful moment in our conversation came when Devon reflected on how her perspective has evolved. I used to think my story was a burden, she said. Now I see it's a bridge, a way to connect with others who need to know they're not defined by their worst moments or hardest circumstances. That's the paradox of our painful beginnings. When we stop allowing them to define us, they can become our greatest source of connection and contribution to others. I'm not suggesting this transformation is easy. It isn't. It requires confronting painful truths. It demands persistence through setbacks. It calls for courage when everything in us wants to retreat to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. But as Devon's journey shows us, this work of redefining ourselves is the most important work we'll ever do. Because when we free ourselves from the tyranny of our past, we don't just change our own lives, we change what's possible for everyone around us. We create new possibilities, new narratives, new templates for what a human life can become despite or perhaps because of its challenging beginnings. So today, I challenge you to declare independence from every label, limitation, and low expectation that's been placed on you. To recognize that while you can't change your beginning, you have enormous power over your middle and your end. Your story isn't finished. The most important chapters are still unwritten, and the pen is in your hand. Remember Devon's journey from a challenging childhood to becoming an accomplished television producer with multiple degrees. Remember how she refused to let those circumstances define her future. And remember that the same power that allowed Devon to transcend her circumstances lives in you too. Your past may explain you, but it doesn't have to contain you. Your wounds may have shaped you, but they don't have to limit you. Your beginning may be part of your story, but it doesn't have to be your destiny. Because in the end, we are not defined by what happens to us. We are defined by how we respond, by what we choose to believe about ourselves, by the stories we choose to live into. So I ask you, what story will you begin writing today? What limiting narrative will you finally put down? What new possibility will you embrace? The world doesn't just need your survival, it needs your triumph. It needs your unique voice, unburdened by the weight of a past you didn't choose. Take Devon's hand, take Oprah's hand, take Maya's hand, take Tyler's hand. They're reaching back to you across the divide of circumstance, showing you that the journey is possible. Now take the first step, and then another, and another. Your new story begins now.